excuse me. What we're gonna be talking about in this video is the different types of numbers. When you get into algebra, you're gonna hear, a lot of your teachers, professors, they're gonna be fussing about these different types of numbers. So that's what we're gonna discuss today, or in this video, because it's nighttime. I think a good way to start this off is with a question. I forgot who asked me this question. It might have been in a book that I was reading. But it's something like this. Is a chair because it's a chair, or because that's what we call it? Now, folk think they smart, so they feel like they don't gotta think about stuff. But let's just read the question one more time. Is a chair because it's really a chair? Or is it a chair because that's what we call it? If you still don't get it, just think about it, and we'll talk about it at the end of the video. But I just think that's a good way to start off this discussion on the different types of numbers. Now, before we get into the different types of numbers, it's three basic types that we're gonna talk about in this video. But before we get into them, we need to kind of clear some things up. And that's the difference between a number and its numeral. That is, again, a lot of folk might not even tell you about that. For real. But there is a difference between numbers and numerals. And again, it's only relevant when you're doing math, obviously. But it helps in understanding what's going on. So if you didn't know, there's a difference between a number and a numeral. A number is what it is. It, open-ended. A number is what it is. A numeral is what we call it. It's a real subtle distinction, but it's important. A number is an idea, essentially. A number is a concept. A number is a concept. But a numeral, we'll say, is a picture. Is what I put up there. Picture of the concept. So every number has a numeral, I guess, theoretically, and practically. But so, for example, this right here, this is the number 10. This is the number 10, ain't it? No, it's not the number 10. Because look, this is a picture right here in that box, right here in that picture. This picture is associated with a different number. You see what I'm saying? This is a picture, this is a numeral for the concept that we call 3. For example, think about if we weren't English, what would we have in this box for a picture for when we want to talk about 3 of something? It'll be different. It might look something like this. I don't know. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? But it'll be a different picture, a different numeral. We'll talk about that maybe later on. Y'all let me know if y'all want to get more into numbers versus numerals. But that's important to know when we start talking about the different types of numbers, which we fixing to do right now. So, again, when you start doing algebra, you're going to hear a lot of fuss about different types of numbers. Excuse me. First type of number that you might come across is something that's called, or the natural numbers. The natural numbers, where do they come from? What do folk be talking about, teacher, professor? What do folk talking about when they say natural numbers? Natural number, and where does it come from? Natural numbers just come from pointing and counting. If you can point at it and count it, it's a natural number. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. 5 if you want 5, whatever. Pointing and counting, that's the natural numbers, and that's where they come from. Natural numbers are numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Natural numbers are what you see in the natural world. So that doesn't include 0. You can't point at nothing. You see what I'm saying? So that's why 0 is not a natural number. And that's why negative numbers, which we'll get into with the integers, that's why negative numbers are not so-called natural. That's the first type of number that you likely to come across in algebra. The second is the whole numbers. Whole numbers are natural numbers that include 0. That's all that I mean. I'm not gonna confuse you. Listen. Like I tell a lot of the students that I tutor, I'm really not your teacher. So I'm not gonna be overly complicated. The whole numbers are the same as the natural number. You don't gotta take it no further than that. It just includes 0. So let's get to the integers. This is the one that's a little more interesting. So integers, where do they come from? Well, first of all, these are types of numbers. Again, these ain't numerals now. We're talking about types of numbers, types of ideas. But integers, what are they and where do they come from? Well, right here, they're the same as the natural and the whole numbers, integers. Another word for integer might be interval, because integers, where they come from is when you're basically looking at the distance between different numbers. So that's where intervals come into play. When you want to find out how far one number is from another number, and again, the ideas we're talking about, one quantity is away from another quantity. When you want to kind of measure that, intervals are the way to go. So that's where integers come from. Now there are 2 types of integers that now you're not going to hear that in class, but there are 2 types of integers that you're going to hear about: positive integers and negative integers. Now again, positive is a little, that kind of self-explanatory. Positive integer, that's just moving a positive distance from wherever you started from, right? Meaning whatever number you started from, you move a distance from that to where the number gets greater, essentially. But now, there's another type of integer called negative integers. Now, how do you go negative distance? That is, that's a good question. Negative integers come from basically debt. When you owe something, that's how you get negative numbers, like -1, -2. The key thing about negative integers is that they are less than 0. That's the whole thing. I guess that was really what I was trying to say. The thing about negative integers is that they are less than 0. That means you what called in the hole. That means you're in debt. That's where negative integers come from. Now, what are negative integers? These are just types of numbers. And numbers are just concepts and ideas, right? So these, are where negative and positive integers come from. Again, from looking at the distance between numbers, and also, particularly, this is with negative integers. Keeping up with debt when you owe somebody, when somebody owe you, when you in the hole for something, or when you take a loss instead of a profit. This is where negative integers come into play. These are the basic, types of numbers that you're going to hear about in your algebra.